I'd love to be the podcast host where I'm learning from the guest. So let's try to play around with that. So please start with the first question.
I love that vibe. It's such a rich space to explore. All right, let's dive in. So I'll ask you, what do you think is the most powerful belief a person can cultivate to unlock their true potential?
I think the most powerful belief the person can cultivate is the belief that it's even possible for them. I think if you don't even think it's possible, then you will not look for opportunities, ideas, nothing. It will just be left at that. It's not possible. So I think self-belief and belief that it's even possible is really the first step. And thinking in terms of Wayne Dyer and Jim Rohn, what do you think is the first step for people, especially in this day and age with new technology and everything? What do you think people need to get to that next level?
That's a great point. And I think Wayne Dyer would say something like, it's about tapping into that inner stillness, creating space in your life so you can hear your intuition. And Jim Rohn would probably say it's about being intentional with the influences you surround yourself with, whether that's people or content or daily habits. So what's one intentional shift you think someone could make today to start opening up that space for possibility?
I think you'd have to be really ruthless these days with the type of content you follow, the conversations you have, and the ideas that you're allowing into your consciousness. I think right now there's a lot of doom scrolling. There's a lot on the media, on the news of just terrible things. And there's no doubt that there are a lot of terrible things going on in the world. But if you are only consuming content that sort of reinforces that sort of dismal outlook on life, that's not doing yourself a service by any means. So I think being really ruthless with the content that you follow, go through and edit the people that you're listening to, the ideas and concepts, and limit maybe exposure to news. Be mindful of the conversations you're having. Limit your interaction. If there's a certain friend that you're calling regularly and every time you get on the phone, you guys are gossiping or talking about your problems, you can start with letting them know that you want to really focus on your goals and wishes and hopes, or you limit the amount of time that you spend communicating. Let me see. If you were to answer again as Wayne Dyer or Jim Rohn, and I was to ask you, what do you think people need to hear right now?
That's beautiful. And I think both of them would really point to this idea of personal responsibility. Wayne Dyer might say, you are not a prisoner of your circumstances. You are the creator of your life. And Jim Rohn would probably say, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. So for anyone listening today, I think they need to hear that even in uncertainty, the power to shape their future really does lie in their daily choices. What's
I,
one daily choice you think you could make this week to move closer to that vision of yourself?
I love that. I love that idea of personal responsibility. I just shared something on my LinkedIn about no one's coming to save you. And I like that quote because it does remind us that we are our own saviors and it's up to us to become more efficient, learn technologies, step out of our comfort zone. All of the power is within us and in our next move, in our actionable steps. So I love that you would assume that Wayne Dyer and Jim Rohn would say something similar. One small step that I can take this week is just to keep creating, despite having a hectic work day, a bunch of things that we have to do. There's very limited time in the last few weeks to create, but yet I'm making sure that it's a priority even when I'm feeling blah and even when I'm not into it. I want to just keep creating and keep building this sort of content library of all the things that I'm truly passionate about and the things that I do think there's value, especially this idea of podcasting with ChatGPT, and going back and forth with this sort of Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer sort of perspective. I love, love, love this idea. And it was only born out of desperation and the fact that every avenue I turned to was just declining me and not available to me. And then this idea came to mind while I was at the gym of using ChatGPT to podcast. And I was like, yes, wow, wow. What do you think people can do right now after watching this video to set them on the path that, offers them that push to take the next step?
I is just give themselves permission to experiment and not have all the answers at once. Jim Rohn used to say, take care of your minutes, and the years will take care of themselves. So even if it's a small imperfect step, recording a short thought, posting a snippet, sharing a win, just keep that momentum going. And I think Wayne Dyer would say, trust that inner calling. If it excites you, it's worth pursuing. So what's one tiny action you can take today, no matter how small, just to keep that dream alive?
I love that. I think that's what we would encourage the viewer to do. Take one small action. It doesn't have to be public or creating content. It doesn't have to be some grand gesture. Maybe you have some ideas you want to write down in a journal, or maybe you love fashion or baking and you want to record those videos. It doesn't have to be. Maybe you just want to work on a cookbook, or um, you know, explore this new hobby. I do think that humans need progress. That's the only thing. I shouldn't say that's the only thing, but that is the one thing that's getting me through winter without having a vacation planned. Usually we go away in March. This is the second year that we're not going away in March, so there's no luggage to pack. There's no, you know, sunshine to look forward to, and the winter has been long and cold here in Canada. So having something that you're working on is what's keeping me excited. And I do think that humans need that. They need progress. What's your perspective on humans and progress?
Oh, I completely agree. I think progress is like a compass for the human spirit. Wayne Dyer often say when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think that's so key. Progress, even in small steps, reminds us we're not stuck. And Jim Rohn would say success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. So I think when we're anchored in that daily progress, even if it's just a creative project or a new skill, we stay in flow, even in the tough seasons.
I would love to add the fact that you used a quote that I've had on my wall for many, many, many years. I only just replaced it with my book, 14 Days to an Abundant Mindset. But I had that exact Wayne Dyer quote on my wall. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I feel like this week has really been testing me on that, in terms of how I'm looking at my day to day. And I was, I really needed that shift in perspective to bring gratitude back into my life for all the things I'm grateful for, even when things are challenging, even when it's overwhelming. I need to be really, really grounded and grateful. And I do believe that reminding ourselves of these things. And for me, one thing I've also noticed is that, a lot of family and friends and colleagues and different people in my life are going through something. Someone's been laid off, someone had a medical procedure and they're recovering from it. Like, there's so many things going on in the world right now that when I think of my problems or things that I'm worried about, it pales in comparison. It's nothing compared to what other people are going through. And sometimes reminding myself of that, like, hey, would you want your problem or their problem? I'll always pick my own. And I really sometimes have to remind myself of the things I'm grateful for and coach myself when I wake up feeling like, ugh, I have this whole list of things that I got to get done. And, this is time sensitive and we're not getting the answer back that we want. And, how's this person going to react when they hear this? There's so many things that are beyond our control, and it's great when you care, but sometimes, over caring about things that you can't control, it doesn't serve you. How do you think Wayne Dyer or Jim Rohn would respond to someone if they were saying, look, I worry about things and I know it's not serving me. How do I overcome that?
I think Wayne Dyer would gently say something like, your thoughts are powerful. So when you catch yourself in that spiral, bring yourself back to the present moment. Breathe and remind yourself that right now in this moment, you have everything you need. And Jim Rohn, I think, would say, don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution, even a small one. So I think it's about bringing yourself back to that center, taking deep breaths, and choosing one small action that you can control, just one step forward. And as you do that, you're reinforcing this new muscle where you don't have to be at the mercy of every worry. You can guide yourself back to that sense of gratitude and purpose.
Focusing on what you can control is huge. And I have trained my mind to be very solutions focused. So if a problem does come to me, I will immediately start thinking about what's the next right move. And then I will take all those steps. And then I'm waiting for someone else's next right move. And that's the part that I worry about. It's like, oh, what are they going to do? But I've done my part. And I've really trained myself to be solutions focused, but I do still have those moments that remind me that I've got that tendency to worry living inside me and it comes out. What do you think people need to do in terms of actionable steps to help them feel more confident in the future?
I love that you've already built that muscle of solution focus. And I think the next step is to really anchor in a practice of celebrating small wins. So every time you do take that right next step, pause and acknowledge it. Write it down, maybe even share it with a trusted friend. And Jim Rohn would say success is not to be pursued, it is to be attracted by the person you become. So each time you handle something, you build trust in yourself. And I think over time, that small track record of action is what gives you confidence because you see, like, oh, even when I worry, I still show up and I still take that step. So keep celebrating those little actions. They're building blocks for bigger confidence.
This is beautiful. Thank you. I love this. Is there any closing statements if there was a viewer? And what do you think they need to hear right now with everything that's going on in the world? What's one impactful thing that you think we could take away from this?
I think the most important thing they can hear right now is that even in the middle of uncertainty, every small choice you make is a step towards your own growth and your own light. Wayne Dyer often said, be a light in the world. And Jim Rohn would say, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. So no matter what storms are swirling around you, keep being that steady light. Keep showing up and trust that each step, each small effort is creating ripple effects you might not see yet, but they matter.
Perfect. Then we are going to end this podcast with trust and believe. I have that written in my last year's journal. I'm going to do a page in this year's journal. Trust and believe. We're leaving it at that. Thanks for watching.
I love that. And that's such a beautiful note to end on. Trust and believe.